his tracks are no match for her calculated logic. He is forced to surrender his autonomy, acknowledging that Skylar is now the primary architect of his legal safety. The power dynamic shifts instantly as the professional bookkeeper turns a messy criminal enterprise into a structured corporate front.
Mike Ehrmantraut enters Walter White's house to deliver a cold reality check. He recalls his years as a beat cop, dealing with a man named Gordy. Gordy weighed nearly 300 pounds and spent every weekend beating his wife, a woman as small as a bird. Mike responded to the calls dozens of times. One night, Mike took the husband out to the desert alone. He forced the man to his knees and shoved a revolver into his mouth. The man sobbed and begged for his life. Mike listened to the screaming, held the trigger, but ultimately chose mercy. He gave a final warning and let the man live. 2 weeks later, Mike responded to the house one last time. Gordy had killed his wife by caving her head in with the base of a heavy blender. Mike tells Walt that his mistake was choosing a half measure when he should have gone all the way. He warns Walt never to repeat that error. Soon after, Jesse Pinkman stands on a dark corner, facing two armed dealers. As they reach for their guns, Walter's Aztec screams into the frame. The car slams into the dealers at full speed, crushing one instantly. Walt steps out of the vehicle and walks toward the survivor, gasping on the pavement. He picks up a fallen handgun and fires a single round into the dealer's head. The half measure is over. Walt looks at Jesse and gives a one-word command: run.
Deputy Commissioner Gorsh arrives at Firehouse 51 with a brand new fire truck. He uses the gift to project an image of cooperation. Soon after, Gorsh meets with Chief Bowden and Lieutenant Severide to discuss a new initiative. He proposes a multi-million-dollar order for second sets of turnout gear for every firefighter. Gorsh claims a budget freeze is in effect and demands the department switch to a supplier named Dobson. He argues Dobson is cheaper than their current high-quality gear. Severide reviews the specifications. He finds that Dobson gear has never been tested or vetted by the NFPA. He directs Ritter to perform a background search on the company. Ritter uses digital tools to track the supplier's leadership. He uncovers a social media photo from a high school reunion in Winston-Salem. The photo confirms that Gorsh and the head of sales at Dobson, Lane Ferris, are former classmates. Severide and Bowden bring these findings to City Comptroller Laura Martin. During the meeting, Gorsh attempts to justify the contract as a personal favor to save city funds. Severide presents a report from the Winston-Salem police. They interviewed Ferris, who confessed to the arrangement in 10 seconds. The evidence proves Gorsh authorized unverified gear in exchange for a $200,000 kickback. The comptroller intervenes immediately and informs Gorsh that he is fired. The corrupt official is removed from the building. The crew secures the funding for certified safety equipment, ending Gorsh's influence over the house. Nick Porter moves into the apartment to cover a rent gap. He is a sales representative for the Slamagon, a heavy-duty, forcible entry tool used by firefighters. The roommates soon realize the true cost of the arrangement. By 7 in the morning, Nick is already drinking straight whiskey. He occupies the common area in his underwear, flipping through old photo albums of his ex-wife, Ellen. He forces the firefighters to watch recordings of 1,992 NASCAR races on repeat. While he describes Ellen as pure poison, he refuses to stop looking at her wedding photos. The living situation becomes a liability. The team needs the room for Foster, a colleague who is facing a rent hike and needs immediate housing. Mouch and the crew decide to intervene using psychological leverage. They do not serve an eviction notice. Instead, they track down Ellen. They recognize that Nick's constant complaining is a factual indicator of his inability to move on. The firefighters facilitate a meeting between the estranged couple. They use Nick's nostalgia to bridge the gap between his words and his actions. The plan works. Nick announces that Ellen has invited him back into their home. He packs his boxes, his whiskey, and his trophies. As a parting gift, he hands the roommates a Slamagon instructional DVD. Nick vacates the premises, and Foster moves in within the hour. The team reclaims their apartment by successfully weaponizing a Toiselle-Yorne's own domestic regret. Firefighters arrive at Stover Academy to find students loitering in the rain. There is no smoke, it is a false alarm. While the crew waits for a reset, a high-priority call comes in. A man is pinned under a 2,000-pound oil tank in a residential basement. He has stopped breathing. The false alarm at the school has already cost the rescue team 3 critical minutes. The squad reaches the house and enters a narrow basement. The heavy steel tank has crushed the victim's chest, cutting off his oxygen. Severide determines that standard lifting jacks will not fit the cramped space. He improvises a fulcrum using a ladder and iron weights to create a lever. The team slides high-pressure airbags under the tank's edge. As the bags inflate, the firefighters use their own body weight to stabilize the lever. They drag the man out. He has no pulse. Paramedics begin resuscitation in the ambulance as the family watches. The investigation leads back to the academy. The headmaster dismisses the incident as a prank and refuses to cooperate, citing student privacy. Casey and Severide ignore him and review the security footage. They track the movement in the hallways and find a young student named Elijah hiding in the locker room. The boy admits to pulling the alarm. He is not a delinquent, he is being bullied and wanted the school shut down so he could return to his old friends. The firefighters bring Elijah to the hospital to face the victim. He delivers a handwritten apology to the man in the ICU. To finish the rescue, the crew returns to the victim's house. They spend their off-duty hours repairing the basement and completing the work the father can no longer do. Firehouse 51 arrives at a residential structure fire. They breach the front door and pull Mr. and Mrs. Larson from the heavy smoke. At the hospital, the situation turns. Gail Larson dies during emergency surgery. Her husband, recovering from his own burns, explains their situation to the paramedics. They moved to Chicago from Montana only 1 month ago. They have no relatives, no friends, and no emergency contacts in the entire state. He is a man who has lost his home and his partner in a city where no one knows his name. The firefighters return to the charred remains of the house. They sift through the wet ash and blackened furniture until they find Dusty, the couple's cat, hiding in the wreckage. They bring the animal to the hospital. It is the last living thing Mr. Larson has left. On the day of the funeral, the chapel is cold and empty. Mr. Larson sits in the front pew, staring at his wife's casket. The priest begins the service for an empty room. Suddenly, the back doors swing open. Every member of Firehouse 51 enters the hall. They are dressed in formal blue uniforms, standing in a silent, disciplined line. They fill the vacant pews, surrounding the old man with a wall of blue. They never met Gail Larson, but they refuse to let her be buried in silence. Mr. Larson looks back and sees a city that has decided to claim him as its own. In Chicago, no one grieves alone. Firefighter Gallo stands in the hospital as the doctor delivers a blunt assessment. 7-year-old Lucy has second and third degree burns covering 60% of her body. She is placed in a medically induced coma to manage the agony. Gallo listens in silence, the trauma of the rescue still fresh on his hands. At the firehouse, the veterans recognize the look in his eyes. Herman pulls up his shirt to show a massive scar from a 1,992 vehicle fire. One by one, the other men reveal their own permanent marks of service. They use a lighthearted jab about Gallo's Fitbit to break his defensive